It's no secret that crime's been surging across the nation, mainly in Democrat-run cities. We've talked about smash and grab a lot as of recently, but there's one form of crime that hasn't been getting that much attention: pet theft. Yes, you heard that right. Criminals are stealing puppies. If you're a dog person like me, I'm sure you find this not only upsetting, but also puzzling. A very random type of crime to be gaining popularity, if I do say so myself. We're seeing this across the country in places like Washington, D.C., California, and in Texas. Now, let me walk you through one of the incidents in California, just so you have a better idea of how this has been going down. In Hollywood Hills, a French bulldog was stolen from its owner around 7 in the morning. The owner was walking his dog when he was approached by a car with 2 people. One got out of the passenger's side, punched the owner, and grabbed the dog. Now the car began to drive off, and the owner tried to hold on, but he lost his grip. Unfortunately, the criminals ultimately got away with the puppy. And that's just one of the incidents. In some of the other incidents, victims were held at gunpoint. Joining me now to weigh in is the National Vice President of the Fraternal Order of Police, Joe Gamaldi. Thanks for being here tonight, Joe, to break this all down for us. So when I was reading into this puppy stealing epidemic, I remember when Lady Gaga's dog was stolen, and I remember thinking, oh, maybe that's because it's Lady Gaga. And then after reading through these stories, I realized the common theme here is the type of dog. It's French bulldogs who apparently can go for thousands. So in your career, have you ever seen anything like this?
Yes, in fact, we have seen things like this before. And I think some of your viewers are probably thinking, well, you know, it's just a dog. What's the big deal? But what people don't understand is dogs are members of people's families. And oftentimes these are violent incidents where people are using guns to rob people of their pets. But I think it really speaks to the bigger issue that's going on in this country right now. And we have a culture of lawlessness that has been fostered and promoted by woke politicians. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you remove consequences for these miscreant criminals, they're going to run wild. And that's exactly what we're seeing on our streets right now. They removed consequences through a toxic cocktail that have been shoved down the throats of law-abiding Americans, through rogue prosecutors who are letting violent repeat felons over and over again, including the folks that are committing these dog thefts. We have the continued demonization of law enforcement, and then we have bail reform, which has been an unmitigated disaster wherever it's been tried. So when you combine all these things together, it's like the Wild West in our urban communities. 2021 is going to be one of the highest recorded murders in the entire country in the last 30 years. And we have 15 different cities that are reporting the highest murders on record. Places like Philly, Indianapolis, Austin, Portland, the list goes on. And the fact of the matter is, people walking their dogs deserve to be in a safe community. People living in those urban communities deserve to have a safe environment to raise their families and have prosperous opportunities like the rest of us.
Well, speaking of cities that are seeing this lawlessness, Chicago is another one of the cities that is experiencing a high homicide rate right now, right? And Mayor Lori Lightfoot, people are not a fan of her, and actually recently a 911 dispatcher just went viral for slamming her, saying that it's because of her that the city is seeing so much lawlessness right now. And we have a clip of that.
She don't even care about her city workers. All that lady cares about is her self. And I pray you're watching this, because you're a disgrace. And I'm tired of it. And your city is tired of it. Matter of fact, it's not your city. The city of Chicago is tired of it. And I know you don't like me. And that's okay, because I love you. But I'm tired of you, because you're an absolute disgrace to everyone within the city.
So I think what made this so viral is the fact that he's experiencing her policies firsthand and seeing the repercussions of it, right? And I want to clarify the Chicago stats that I was referencing. So just last year, they saw nearly 800 homicides, and that's the most of any U.S. city. And this is the same woman who blamed this crime surge on retailers. So you know she saw that. You know she's seen these stats. Is that enough to wake her up?
I don't think there's going to be anything damaging enough to wake that woman up. Chicago saw the highest amount of murders than they've seen in the last 25 years this past year. And she tried to blame COVID, even though we haven't seen a spike in any other industrialized country except the United States. She's trying to blame retailers when what she should really do is look in the mirror, because she's to blame. She has fostered these policies. She has demonized the hardworking men and women in Chicago, and she's the one that needs to own this. But don't worry, we have an alderman from Chicago who's got a tip for people who are being robbed out on the street, and that if you observe someone robbing someone at gunpoint, you should run at them and blow a whistle to draw attention to it. I mean, I wish I was making this up, but it's entirely too stupid for me to come up with. But that's what they're telling folks out on the street. So if you're watching right now and you live in Chicago, please don't do that, because ultimately you're going to end up getting shot out on these streets. Call the police. We're there to help. We're going to continue to hold the line despite what these woke politicians will try to do to us.
Blowing a whistle, yeah, that doesn't necessarily sound like it's going to stop any criminal. But, you know, like you've mentioned before, it seems like our country is just in the state of lawlessness where criminals feel emboldened. And, you know, you look back at the root of when our country started to go in this direction, and really the death of George Floyd really, it made so many headlines. It really fostered this culture of the war on cops, right? Do you think that we will ever get to a day and age where law enforcement is no longer demonized and that they're valued for what they do, which is protect?
Well, you know, I'll tell you this. The lack of consequences for criminals started long before the George Floyd incident. We've been talking about this for over 2 years. We saw this train wreck coming, and we tried to warn everyone that these policies were going to lead to huge increases in violent crime, and that's exactly what happened. Now, as far as law enforcement is concerned, we know that the majority of Americans love and support police officers, but I would encourage your viewers, please show up at your city council meetings and tell them that you support law enforcement, that you want your departments to be fully funded. And if there are politicians in your area that aren't standing on a platform, a bedrock platform of law and order, then you need to vote their asses out, because this is ultimately people's lives that we're dealing with.
Thank you so much for that advice. We will be definitely listening. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks for having me on.